This channel is made possible by viewers like you. My viewers, subscribers, and patrons greatly help to keep this channel going. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for all of you. Please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any uploads. And if you'd like to go the extra mile, please check out my Patreon page. For just $1 a month, you'll get access to what I'm working on, previews of upcoming content, and even early videos, along with other tier options for those that are interested. Thank you, and now on to the video. During the 360 and PS3 generation, Raven Software was a studio that I very much look forward to whatever they were making. I really started getting familiar with them after they made their Jedi Knight games. Those were awesome and remain some of the best Star Wars games out there, especially Jedi Academy. Then, if I wasn't already in love with them after their X-Men Legends games, they easily became one of my favorite developers. Those titles are top god tier titles, so when the 360 came around, anytime their name was on something, I had to play it. While I know today they are mostly known for their efforts with Call of Duty titles, starting out as a support team to leading a remaster and even helming some of the campaigns. I thought they did a really good job with Cold War's campaign, but their sort of last title before they got put on Call of Duty was stuff like Singularity. This was back when Activision made more games than just Call of Duty. It was and is a stellar first-person shooter, a criminally underrated and overlooked title, that if you run into someone who played it, they more than often than not really love this game. For years this title has only been available on sites like GOG, so if you had a PC you can play it pretty easily, but for console players it's a bit harder. But now it would appear that the title might be coming back in some capacity to the Xbox family of consoles, and as a huge fan, I don't need much of an excuse to talk about Singularity or Raven. So it would appear that the game was relisted on Microsoft's store. Some smart people noticed this and rumors started circulating that it would look like that Singularity is coming back, and probably an announcement is on the way. My guess is that this title will now be available to then play and download on your Xbox consoles. I don't think this will be a remaster of any sorts, but rather a re-release of the game that we saw with several of the older Xbox and 360 games that you can nab now. As a side note to this, I do think Singularity could benefit from a remaster. This is the sort of game that Night Dive Studios would probably do a really good job with, or honestly maybe even give it back to Raven. Having played the title in the past few years again, I can vouch that it has aged extremely well. Controls are very modern, the game still looks great, and it's a lot of fun. The potential for a full-blown remaster could allow for the game to potentially get even more fleshed out. There's a lot of interesting stuff surrounding Singularity, both the game itself and the development. It had a rather troubled development, with it almost getting cancelled. In order to get the game out, many things had to be taken out of the game. It was honestly a small miracle that this title was even able to see the light of day, and be in such a good condition when it did. But personally, I would love to see some of these cool prototype concepts available to the player, and a remaster could allow for this. The earliest demo shown for the game is pretty different compared to what we got. It looked like a playable demo, and that would be a nice extra to include in a remastered set, at the off chance any of the old taken out features could be added back into the game. This would be a really nice way to make a definitive version of it. While I don't know if we'll ever see a remaster of this at any point, one thing is certain: it would appear that this game is coming back to Xbox, and that is always a good thing. So what even is Singularity? Well, it's a first-person shooter set in a time travel story. The design is very Bioshock-like. It's a very linear game that has those nooks and crannies to grab a bunch of stuff in. You get a nice mixture of powers and guns, and with it being a Raven game, the game is very, very violent. Limbs and heads can all be blown off. It's a short and sweet campaign that presents a really enjoyable story that has some nice twists along the way too. Very plot-driven and overall good stuff. As a semi-swan song for the developer, this is a very high note to go out on. Exploring is good, and while in a limited capacity, the puzzles are fun, but this is definitely an area that took a hit based on the troubled development. Back to the combat, this is delightfully over the top and very gamey, and I love it. The shotguns provide a nice pushback as you see enemies being thrown back along with a sniper shot that almost always results in a body part being removed. Weapons range from the standard fare like a reliable assault rifle and a shotgun to more unique weapons like a sniper rifle that can slow down time and a grenade launcher where you can manually roll the grenade anywhere on the ground. One of the standouts is the Seeker. This weapon is given its own special set pieces, and they are always great. You can aim each explosive bullet and decide who and where you want to hit the enemy. The Seeker is the type of stuff where you look at it and that's classic Raven. It's a sort of weapon that felt like the developers knew how overpowered it is, and included it because of how much fun it is to use. So with it looking like Singularity is coming back, this has now got me thinking. Raven worked with Activision with many really quality titles, and it would seem if Singularity is coming back, why not some of the other ones too? For example, the first-person shooter they made before Singularity was a sequel to Wolfenstein. This 2009 title is a great first-person shooter as well. Again, the shooting is great, the guns feel impactful, and the violence is glorious. There's some powers to use as well, and the campaign is really the star of the show. I like how you are in this hub-like city, with even some side missions to complete as well. There's a variety of guns, gold to find, and upgrades to earn. Another shooter that could use some more attention. Raven was also responsible for the awesome Wolverine game. You know, the one based off the prequel Origins film. The film isn't the best of the X-Men movies, but as a movie tie-in game, Raven came in and just smashed any expectations people had of it. They were able to deliver a killer title that finally allowed players to see the full power of Logan's claws. For one, the game was rated M, and it went all out with the violence. Plus, while the game's story still needed to follow the events of the film, it managed to better the execution of that story, and we had a situation where the movie tie-in game was substantially better than the film it was based off of. A really great surprise. Then you have their action RPGs that they made with the first Marvel Ultimate Alliance game, and the X-Men Legends titles. My point with this is that if Singularity is coming back, there has got to be a way to get all of these titles to come back in some capacity. Each of these titles have their fans attached to them. People would love to have more access to these games. Best of all, they still all play very well. I think probably the hardest to get re-released might be some of the Marvel ones. But with that being said, Disney has re-released old Star Wars titles, as they own the rights to them, so I feel like something could be worked out to get those X-Men games back too. Now, not Raven related, but Activision related. If more of their back catalog is coming back, then there's one title that I would love to see come back as well. Way back when, before any of the Red Dead Redemption games, there was a title called Gun. This was an open-world Western third-person shooter, and I think maybe the first open-world Western. But I might be wrong about that. Either way, the game is a great time, and one that I still revisit on my PC. It's on the shorter side with a really well done story, and a Hollywood cast that really brings it too. It's a game that would be great to see come back in some capacity, to kind of go back to see how things were before the Redemption games. This was an original title published by Activision and made by Neversoft. Again, if I had it my way, I would have them all come back. So it would seem that we have some interesting developments with Singularity potentially returning to Xbox consoles. Maybe if there is enough interest, we can see a full-blown remaster made for this game, and maybe other Activision titles too. It would be great to see these games available on other platforms as well. But the prospect of just having Singularity come back is something that I look forward to, and maybe even better to have some of those older Activision games coming back as well. And if they do, I'm definitely going to be cheering about those as well. Did you play Singularity back in the day? If you haven't played it, does this look like something you would want to try out now? What Activision games would you like to see return? Let me know all of this in the comments down below. If you're interested in supporting the channel, please check out my Patreon page. For just $1 a month, you can help to keep this channel going strong, and this allows me to be able to do more for my awesome audience. Please check out the links in the description and pinned comment for ways to support the channel. And most of all, thank you very much for watching.